About 4 months ago I got my iPhone 14 Pro. After using the device for that period, I have some opinions regarding daily tasks, content creation and whether you should update. So let's start with size and weight. Some people complain that the phone is too heavy compared to previous models, but to me it feels perfect. Although having quartz palms, I still prefer the iPhone 14 Pro over its Pro Max version. The device feels more delicate in my hands, pockets and waist bag, and if I had to define its weight, it is pretty light, which I certainly enjoy. Battery. If I'm not filming, the battery could last up to 3 days. If I film on the other hand, it drops in about 3 hours of non-stop usage. And after testing that at the gym, I base my conclusions on my session's duration. For those wondering, I mostly film in 4K cinematic, but more on that in a moment. On the contrary, one thing drains the battery much faster, and that is the Canon app, which I use whenever filming Aero. So technically, I cannot record my Aero without also using the charger. Color. As a massive fan of Apple's Space Gray, such as the Universal Audio's complementing color, I opted for Space Black. When it was released, I thought of getting the Deep Purple for a sec, but I quickly made up my mind, and now, about 4 months later, I have zero regrets. Moreover, I think Space Black is the dopest iPhone color, especially when paired with the darker camera module and the all-black sides. Case. As we know, Apple claims these devices to be scratch-proof. Despite that, I didn't want to risk anything, so I bought a screen protector and an Apple silicone case. The color of that is midnight, and in my humble opinion, it looks gorgeous with the dark glossy camera module, and I'll share my experience with that, such as the other accessories I use, in another video. Dynamic Island. Arguably the most innovative feature, the notch got virtually no updates since this release. Nevertheless, it couldn't be more spectacular. Thanks to the ingenuity of Apple's developers and designers, something boring yet necessary was turned into a functional and exciting one. And though I pay very little attention to the notch, it always fascinates me whenever I do. Its animations are beautiful and seamless, plus it frees screen space when using other stuff, improving the experience. While I am listening to music, an audiobook or during a conversation, seeing the little waveforms with their gradients is pretty rad. I appreciate the subtle notifications and how it flawlessly resizes when, for instance, I'm setting a timer, which I often do instead of using a Pomodoro app. Besides, it is interactive, letting me navigate through different chapters of what I'm listening to. Whatever I'm doing, the notch provides a super compact or expanded version of it. Pretty remarkable, that saves time and hassle, and I cannot even imagine how difficult it was to make it work. Camera. My main reason for getting the iPhone 14 Pro, the camera is noticeably bigger. It houses a sensor with 48 megapixels, which is 36 more than previous models. Excluding the Dynamic Island, that is the device's most significant update, and as far as I know, this sensor is about twice as bigger, which explains the apparent difference in quality. White. Producing cleaner images, the sensor gives more depth of field, making better use of the present white. Due to their small sensors, smartphones typically require extra white. On the contrary, this iPhone 14 Pro's out-of-the-box image quality is pretty remarkable for a phone, and in my humble opinion, it beats older DSLRs and lenses. Apple ProRaw. Getting the highest quality photos requires enabling Apple ProRaw. That's done through settings and then choosing camera. Once allowed, the ProRaw option becomes available in the upper right corner whenever you take photos. Using it, the iPhone 14 Pro can produce fantastic images even without editing. Just remember, they'll need a lot more space. Like, a lot more. ProRes and 4K Cinematic. As mentioned, I'm primarily a fan of the 4K Cinematic mode. To enable it, also go to Settings, Camera, picking it from the Formats menu. The same applies to Apple ProRes, which is a codec developed by Apple and used in cinematography. While many filmmakers are obsessed with ProRes, my favorites are the 4K Cinematic in 30 and the standard video in 60 frames per second. When filming, I mostly use the phone for outdoor and gym footage. I have yet to use it for Aero, as I'm yet to download the Filmic Pro app, which I'll review in the future. By far, I'm delighted with the image and colors, and this gets me thinking I should make more content with the phone. Bokeh or Bokeh. Filming myself looks great. On the flip side, capturing bushes and trees could be better. Because this is not an actual lens, the software fakes the bokeh or bokeh effect. That becomes quite apparent as you have multiple objects at a short distance, and depending on the situation, the digital blur may be easily noticeable even when controlling the focus manually. Nonetheless, it is very solid for filming B-roll or when I darken and use the footage as a motion graphics background. In my humble opinion, it is outstanding for anything bodybuilding and fitness related though. Considering the genre's overall quality, your videos will likely stand out with this iPhone 14 Pro. A somewhat identical perspective is shared by Michael Tobin, a highly skilled filmmaker and YouTuber who influenced my decision to purchase the iPhone 14 Pro. While mainly working with the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, Tobin shares that the iPhone 14 Pro Max remains his most used camera. As far as I know, the same applies to Peter McKinnon and Matti Haapoja. Plus, let's face it, if you don't use cinematic mode, you'll likely not have issues with the bokeh. Filming with the iPhone 14 Pro. Given all that, filming with the iPhone 14 Pro is such a breeze. You pull it out of your pocket and get pretty usable footage right off the bat. Since I got the phone, I find myself filming so much more, and I also more frequently think of things and places to film and use in my videos, so it kinda boosts my creativity as well. Always on display. Truth be told, I initially thought this was extremely overrated. Now on the other hand, I appreciate the always on display mode every day. Basically, that is your screen being dimmed without your apps, and unlike what some people claim, this doesn't drain battery. Instead, it is pretty awesome having the date and time such as all my notifications up front. Already used to the feature, I find touching the screen or moving the phone to get that information inconvenient. Sound. Sound seldom comes to mind regarding smartphones, yet as a music producer I cannot skip mentioning how great the iPhone 14 Pro sounds. It has deep and rich lows such as crispy highs and mids. That said, I suggest considering it as a reference speaker for music production and content creation. Conclusion. While not a major update if you come from a 13 Pro model, the iPhone 14 Pro is a great device and I have zero regrets about getting it despite the rumors that the iPhone 15 is coming soon. As mentioned, the camera was the main reason for buying the device and the same really delivers. After 4 months of usage, I am super happy with my purchase and I plan to use the device for a while. Should you get an iPhone 14 Pro? I think you absolutely should if you're a creator and have the budget. Otherwise, I don't think there's enough to gain from the update if you own the 13 Pro. But these are just my opinions. Let me know what is yours, such as whether you agree with what I said. Otherwise, like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to this channel for more content like this, check my other works, know my music and articles are on Spotify and Medium, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for your time.